Under the pale moonlight, the night echoed with chaos. A crowd of soldiers shouted with all their might, screaming to kill the devil. Amid the frenzy, a figure darted toward them at blinding speed, a young boy with stark white hair. Before the nearest soldier could even react, the boy closed the distance and struck him down with a burst of dark energy. The soldier's agonized scream cut through the air. What followed was nothing short of a massacre. With deadly precision, the white-haired boy pressed forward. Channeling power into his palm, he slammed his hand into the earth. The ground cracked and split open beneath the soldiers, his energy erupting like a wave, swallowing them whole. Breathing heavily from exhaustion, the boy stood still as the dust settled. His face was bloodied and bruised, marked by the toll of a long battle. Suddenly, he noticed someone approaching. He turned slightly, eyes locking onto a girl with bright red hair. Her voice trembled with fury and sorrow as she questioned his actions. Why had he made such a choice? Why had he bargained with the devil? She demanded answers from Knox von Leonhaber, calling him a traitor. Knox chuckled bitterly at the accusation. From her vantage point, he admitted, it might appear that way. But in his eyes, it wasn't betrayal. In fact, he claimed she was the one who had betrayed him. She accused him of lying, repeating her question. Why? Why had he done all this? How had things come to this point? But Knox only offered a grin. He turned his eyes to the moon and simply said, it all started with a crash landing. And then suddenly, the game interface blinked to life. A system notification declared, Inner Lunatic completed. Total runs 27. It wasn't a bad run. He'd gathered decent loot, cleared some hidden achievements. Overall, it had gone well. Except for one thing, he was set to die next month. The memory dragged him 2 years into the past. In a sterile hospital room, a doctor spoke with gentle gravity. The test results were in. The young man clutched the report tightly, dread flooding his face. The doctor confirmed that despite testing at multiple facilities, the conclusion was the same: terminal illness. Nothing more could be done. His hand trembled. The only option left was palliative care, pain management, administered carefully and sparingly. Back in the present, 2 years had passed. He turned his head, eyes settling on the calendar. Blood speckled his lips as he coughed violently. In a quiet voice, he muttered to himself that he was dying. For real. The thought looped in his head, but he knew there was no point repeating it. Nothing would change. Just then, his phone buzzed. It was a notification from the university hospital, an appointment reminder. He stared at it, remarking to himself how fortunate it was that no one ever called. Since his memory had started fading, people had stopped reaching out, and he no longer had anyone he could reach out to either. Clenching a blood-stained cloth in his hand, he wondered where a man like him could even go. Opening his phone again, he scrolled through chats, support groups for terminal cancer patients. The screen blurred for a moment, and then, in sudden anger, he slammed his hand against the desk. Papers scattered like autumn leaves. As he looked back up, the game window had returned. It invited him to start a new game. This is all I have left, he muttered. He clicked New Game. The character creation screen appeared. He pondered what kind of character to build this time. After a pause, he chose ultra-sensitive mana, genius, swordsman, and fighter. But as he confirmed the choices, a warning popped up. He had selected multiple genius traits. Proceeding would apply a penalty, a life-limiting illness. He laughed softly. Just like me, he murmured, a soon-to-die character. Without hesitation, he accepted the penalty and continued. Then it happened. A bright blue light exploded above him. His body went limp. He collapsed from his chair, gasping for air. His legs refused to move. His vision swam. Lying on the floor, he felt it. This was different. Was he actually dying? He had long accepted that death was near, but he had always hoped he could at least choose the when and the how. As the darkness closed in, a strange screen appeared before him. Character name modified. Everything went silent. The scene shifted. A soft breeze filtered through an open window in a quiet, unfamiliar room. Something began to synchronize. Then, character configuration complete. The boy, the same one with stark white hair, lay on a bed, panting heavily. He shot upright, disoriented. The surroundings were foreign. Confusion crept in. A stifling sense of déjà vu tightened around his chest. Was this a dream? He wandered the room, unsure of what was real. Then his eyes caught the mirror. He froze. His reflection trembled back at him. His hand began to shake. He had become Knox von Lean Haber, the worst, most reviled character in this cursed game. He couldn't understand how or why it happened, but in that moment a thought surfaced in his mind. It all started with a crash landing. The Lean Haber family was one of the three great houses that wielded the power of darkness. They were closely tied to Lunatic, the game's most infamous criminal organization. Knox was the youngest of 5 sons, born into greatness but burdened by mediocrity. While the rest of his family were renowned swordsmen, Knox was the lone disappointment. Scorned and outcast, he turned to forbidden magic, made a pact with the devil, and eventually became the game's most notorious villain. Still stunned, the boy questioned whether this was all still a dream. Had he truly become Knox? A sudden chime broke his thoughts. His status window appeared on screen. At first, a sense of excitement flickered in his eyes. This was familiar, comfortable. But then he saw the stats. His stamina was only 2, and the negative traits, they matched the character he had just customized. It hit him like a brick. He wasn't just in the game. He was the character, a dying man in reality and now a dying man in the game. He couldn't recall what compelled him to create such a fragile avatar. But maybe, just maybe, a part of him had known. Maybe he had wanted to build someone like himself, terminal, forgotten, and utterly alone. But what he didn't know was the tragedy that choice would lead to. Just then, a new notification flashed. You have one unread message. He opened it. The message greeted him by his real name. Knox froze. Someone, or something, knew who he truly was. The name Chu. It was the one given to him by parents he could no longer even remember, people he wasn't sure were still alive. That thought struck him deeply. Whoever or whatever had brought him to this world knew of a past he himself couldn't recall. The Cinder then says that he might not remember him, but he has to say that it's been a long time without him. Seeing this greatly shocks Knox as the Cinder continues that the past 2 years he has been really brave and strong and has proven himself deserving of coming back. And so the Cinder welcomes back Knox, which makes Knox wonder if he is originally from here. Seeing this message get him wondering if he is to believe that this world is real and the world he came from is not. His hand starts trembling as he calls it all nonsense. The sender then tells him that there is much he cannot tell him just yet, including his identity, and declares that he intends to help him, making Knox wonder, how is he going to do that? He asks Knox to enter a Lydian academy as top priority, and there he should find companions, those who can be of help to him, and get as close to the main storyline as he can. Doing so will set him on the path to find all the lost truth. And with this last piece, the message window fades. Knox panics and asks him to not go yet, but it leaves regardless. So Knox decides to think of what to do. He knows that now he is Knox von Lean Haber, the will-be final boss of this game, and that he is supposed to push himself close to the main story. But regardless of how he understands, for him, it's like throwing himself into the flame. But he considers, what if the message was saying the truth and this is the reality? Can he really afford to ignore it and possibly burn the bridge to his lost memory? Which he decides that he cannot, and considers his path as good as set, which is to get near the main story, reclaim his memory, and figure out what this game has to do with it. And if possible, survive, since he is living on a borrowed time anyways. And if being the ultimate villain is the price to pay for it, then he is more than happy to do so. He then grins, thinking that it is not worse than the life he had in the other world. He has no memory preceding the diagnosis 2 years ago. During the 2 years he do remember, he was always a dying man. Every ticking of the clock was a countdown toward the end. Every second of his life was filled with fear of impending death. So he questions, just how bad can it be? Same life, but different surroundings? And he happens to know these surroundings well. And so he begins by asking the system the date. and it's February 4th, 1812, which means 1 year left till Elidian's next enrollment cycle and also of his demise. But he cheers up and starts to get ready for his 28th successful run. But when he grabs the door handle, he suddenly feels a sharp pain in his wrist. He halts wondering what happened and gets a message that his negative trait sickliness got activated and caused him a level 1 wrist sprain, which makes him dumbfounded. Walking down the hallway, he thinks that even a sunfish would be more sturdier than him and wonder what is wrong with this body. Suddenly, someone bumps into him, and the plates she was carrying all fall down and breaks into pieces, and it seems to be his maid who exclaims that it really hurts upon falling down. But upon noting that it's Master Knox, they all get shocked. Knox feels the pain from stumbling across them as well, and upon noticing that she is a brunette with amber eyes, he wonders if she is Lona. Lona frantically apologizes to Knox for committing a mortal sin and requests him to not cut her with splinters. Knox remembers that she is one of the important side characters, but what makes her memorable is how she talks behind Knox's back every chance she gets, which is weird to imagine considering her looking with those innocent, sparkling eyes with joy as she backbites. Knox leans in close at her and says that he is letting her off the hook this once, but if she were to repeat the same mistake, and Lona immediately apologizes to him. Knox glances to the side and other maids also seems to be terrified, while he thinks that it's not like he is terrorizing people. But upon seeing their full reaction, he remembers that Knox is the spoiled wretch and wonders what kind of horrors has he been spreading in this manner. And Lona, with stutters in her voice, asks Knox where was he heading so early in the morning, and he replies to the drill hall, which surprises all of them. Knox smiles while telling Lona that he is glad that she asked and orders her to follow him, and she gets weird thoughts like if Nukes is going to wall up her with a wooden sword. As they are walking towards the drill hall, Lona suddenly stops and starts glancing at him. Meanwhile, Knox thinks that first off, he needs to survive. His near death in the other world made it clear for him that he is not ready to die just yet, and so the first step he plans to take is adapting to the given circumstances as soon as possible. He mutters to himself that it's not completely impossible. Meanwhile, Lona looks at him with confusion. He knows that he has already beaten this game 27 times before. There is no hidden aspect in this game that he has not discovered yet. He then mutters Traits panel and opens up a window. He remembers that the main story of Inner Lunatic unfolds against an interesting backdrop of conflicts involving the divinity, the devil, and the empire. But that alone would not have earned this game its national popularity. What makes this game truly special is the countless combination of character traits that enables thousands of possible ways to navigate through the game. Traits belongs to different tiers. Depending on how remarkable they are, players can pick several traits of lower tiers. But when it comes to genius traits, players can only choose one, which is not a surprising thing since any genius trait can open up a shortcut to the apex and related fields. Which begs the question, how did he got himself 2 genius traits? He replies himself that it's all thanks to how this game works, specifically thanks to the penalty system called penalty traits. Rather than completely banning players from choosing more talents than allowed in a tier, the game discourages it by slapping them with oversized disadvantages. But regardless, his traits, Genius Swordsman and Fighter, will expedite his progress to the top in combat arts involving white arms, including swords. Ultra sensitivity to mana. This one will allow him to heighten his mana sensitivity to sharply increase his efficiency in any activity that requires magic. But it's not just those 2 genius traits that can be useful to him. And another special one, which must be the benefit that only main character gets Perceptive Eye, which would let him have a peek into the stat window of other characters. Gifted Actor will help him be a more convincing knock, which is something that he would need more than anything. Heart of Steel can help him when he needs to center himself in combat and in danger. But the main problem is the ridiculous negative traits with life-limiting illness on top of them. And seeing all of them, he calls the list a murderer's row of a trait collection. Characters with cold hands and feet cannot even dare to set even a toe in glacial terrain without heat-inducing skills. And due to sickliness, he is bound to collapse at least once before the passing of every chapter. He scratches his head thinking it is what it is, and decides to simply tackle them one by one. Seeing him standing outside the drill hall, Lona thinks that he wasn't bluffing, and if he is really going to drill himself. He stares at the gate for a bit and decides to enter, and he plans to start off with the curse of frailty, which causes his stat growth to be half of what it should be, and his vulnerability to debuffs is twice of what it should be. Now at the drill hall, his hand starts to shake as he holds the sword, and upon thinking from all the angles possible, he concludes that he is doomed. He starts to pant heavily and gets covered in sweat, and drops the sword while falling on the ground being all tired already. He is trembling and despite making only less than 10 swings, thinking, why didn't he knew how intense the curse of frailty would be? He then gets up and looks at the impeccable swords around him, though it doesn't come as a surprise since swordsmanship is what defines the Lienhaber family. Of all the formidable sober that the Lienhaber family has earned, the most prominent is Sons of Darkness and Swords. And what afforded them such renown was its primarily the esoteric arts of infusing dark mana into swords, and none other than the Vanquisher, which is also known as the Black Blade of Domination. A sword that has been historically passed down only from the head of the house to their successor, though to him he doesn't really concerns him, and there are plenty of perks other than swordsmanship that this family has to offer. And for instance, it's money. And money, according to him, they are some of the highest of the highborns in this world, meaning they got plenty of money to burn to the point that they won't mind the family's black sheep splurging, and he is certain that Knox's father Theodore won't give two craps if his brat of a son is throwing money. But he cannot be blamed because through and through Knox has been, and the spoiled last be born of the Lienhaber family, which he finds as an upside to his character, and as he tries to stand up again, his leg starts to shake. He quickly takes his upside line back due to his cursed body and thinks to just chill until Lona brings him back the things he asked for. We go back to a few minutes ago where Lona has brought him a wooden sword, a tower, and some water as he ordered. She is quite surprised upon seeing Knox actually being in the drill hall and wonders if he is serious about this. Knox asks Lona to come here. As he looks around and notes no one is watching, she gets scared thinking that he would beat her. But Nukes asks, what is she even saying, and pulls her ear and whispers something in it. Hearing which she is quite surprised and asks if he is sure as those items will cause him a fortune. And not only that, she claims that they are absolute garbage. But Knox scares her, asking if she is back talking to him, which he frantically denies, and quickly leaves to get the items while thinking that he didn't change at all. What was she thinking? Meanwhile, Knox wonders how resourceful she can get, and he hopes that she can get him those items by tomorrow. Though he gives off a frustrated sigh, mainly about his stamina being only at 2 points, noting that he needs to fix that as soon as possible. Suddenly, someone creeps behind him and greets him with a good morning. He gets quite surprised upon seeing him. He is Rodwell Darroch, the major domo. Apparently, very few people can get short with him, given how much authority he holds in the manor, and KNX being one who certainly cannot. He is chief butler, who assists the family head of Lienhaber family Theodore, and reports directly to him. Knox really doesn't stand a chance against him. He starts trembling in his presence, noting that he got a major obstacle so early in the game. But he thought that a good-for-nothing like Knox would have his whereabouts beneath his notice, and wonders if Rodwell has noticed that something is off. But regardless, he doesn't think that he is defenseless as he puts down the cup. His positive trait gifted actor activates as he tells Rodwell that it's quite funny that he is here since, to his understanding, his job was to attend upon the head of the family. He replies that he has come bearing an order from his father, and his father is apparently expecting his presence at the dinner table tonight. It surprises him as he is going to have dinner with the family on his first day, as Knox, as he doesn't know about the family, let alone the guy he is supposed to be. So he tells Rodwell that his father is going to be disappointed then. While Rodwell also doesn't get why is Theodore wanting Master Knox attend as well, and replies that tonight they will be joined by Miss Tia von Stelliner, and she is apparently visiting to train to be a knight, and if Nukes do not join his brothers in welcoming her, then he is afraid that Lord Theodore would be furious with him, and so he reluctantly agrees to do so. Rodwell apologizes and states that Knox is rather unlike himself today, and he asks, what is that supposed to mean? Rodwell replies that he never much enjoyed swords, yet for some reason he is in the drill hall today, and formally asks if he can inquire what his inspiration was for doing so. Knox replies that he will make it clear on this once and for all. As his master, he will not tolerate such insolent questions in the future, as things that he do and why he does them is none of his concern, and he alone determines what he takes interest in, which kind of makes Rodwell nervous. And Rodwell agrees and simply bows down to him, and Knox leaves. Rodwell wonders if Knox is getting new wind or something and decides to inform lordly neighbor. Back into his room, Knox starts panting heavily due to all the nervousness, noting that he was not expecting such an event and wonders what would happen if he were to get busted, and also questions about Tia and why would she pop in so suddenly. Now fast forward to tonight where someone is mocking K and X that a major dunce is gracing them with his presence, which is a vulgar touch to their dinner. Meanwhile, Knox is quite silent as they mock him further, that if Knox still thinks himself as a lean haber, and they are apparently twin brothers, Hats and Alan. Hats state that he must have lost his remaining shame to join them at the family dinner. They also mock him, commenting that they heard he beats maid and a butler, but Knox stays silent, thinking that while he knew that he is not the one who did it, it still stings nonetheless. Suddenly the door opens as maid starts to bow, and Knox gets nervous. Theodore is here, who comments that everyone seems to be here. Knox notes that he is the head of the lean neighbor family, and along with him is Tia von Stellener, who greets everyone as she introduces herself. Theodore states that she is here to receive her night training and will be staying with him for a while, and asks his family to give her a cordial welcome. Knox remembers that she is the heroine of Inner Lunatic, the one who puts an end to Knox's corruption with her righteous blade, meaning that somewhere down the road she will end up stabbing him in the heart. Theodore comments that he is quite surprised to see Knox at the dinner tonight, and he simply looks away nervously while Tia wonders what is going on. Regardless, they all start eating, and both Hats and Alan seems to be glancing at Knox and planning something. Alan speaks up, saying that his father, that he heard a Lydian Academy's enrollment starts next year, and so they were thinking that they would need to determine who is the most worthy of representing their family name. And their father agrees with that notion, saying that it's high time they discuss the matter. A Lydian Academy is the most important place in this game. It's due to the main storyline of the game mostly consists of episodes where students at a Lydian Academy handle incidents at school and fight the demon. And so he notes that he has to get into a Lydian and gather as many companions as he can without making any fissures in the storyline. Theodore speaks up, saying that they must be aware that a Lydian Academy takes its own measures to prevent aristocratic families from forming cliques inside. Hence the policy of accepting only 3 students from each household. And since their 2 brothers have already claimed their spots, only one of them 3 will get a chance to enroll. Enix notes that for now he has to focus on getting chosen for the last spot. Theodore continues that the one to enroll will be chosen with their time-honored lean haber method. And Knox replies that he means it would be sorted out by dueling, hearing which Theodore is surprised as he wasn't expecting Knox to show an act of interest. And Theodore agrees with Knox, saying that the duel will take place 1 month from today at the drill hall of their manor. Alan tells Knox that if he is planning to withdraw, then he should not join at all. And Hat says there is no point in him entering with his delicate body and callous free hands. Meanwhile, Knox calmly takes up his wine glass, commenting that knowing his rivals, he is feeling rather optimistic. Alan gets angry hearing that and asks Knox if he is suggesting that they are on par with his pathetic self. Meanwhile, Knox thinks that this duel is a hurdle that he would have to jump anyways to get into a Lydian. So he is going to hell with their jeering asses. And so he says that he is suggesting, as a future student of a Lydian, that he is above their level. And Theodore takes notice of him with interest while his brother simply gets annoyed and angry without being able to talk back. And Tia calls it interesting and asks on what ground is he so confident about this, all while grinning, which causes Knox to freak out, thinking that she is the last person whose attention he should be grabbing. Back at Theodore's office, he agrees with Rodwell that it's just as he said. It's like Knox became a different person overnight. And Rodwell agrees with Theodore, thinking that if he hasn't seen it himself, he would have thought that Rodwell was joking and wonders what triggered such a sudden change in him. He first thinks of possibility of him being possessed by a demon, but quickly dismisses that as a ridiculous thing. But whatever it is, he thinks that things are getting far more interested than expected, and orders Rodwell to keep an eye on him. Fast forward and we see Knox running outside while panting heavily and drenched in sweat. The maids whisper about him that Master Knox is back on the drill and are surprised knowing that he is doing it for the duel next month. But they questions if it's for that, then why is he just running around? He glances at them, wondering why can he hear their whispers from all the way there. And while running, he gets a notification that his stamina has increased by 0.1 point, which he calls it ridiculous. And the reason why he is running is because stamina is a major obstacle in his plan. The trait Genius, Swordsman, and Fighter can only be activated when the character has stamina points higher than 4. And any normal character other than Knox would have fulfilled that condition from the start. And he is still under the curse of frailty. And he has 1 month to improve his stamina by 1.9. The curse of frailty is a curse that has one's stamina gains. And all of his running so far resulted in a whopping 0.1 point growth. And since life-limiting illness also has the growth of stamina in its own right, he would have to work 4 times harder to get over this double whammy. And to make it worse, life-limiting illness also sets the upper limit of stamina at 15 points. And now Lona arrives with the stuff that Knox ordered her to get yesterday. Knox thinks that she is better than he thought and tells Lona that she is finally being helpful. And so his strategy for punching his stamina up to 4 is to use an expedient. Something he uses masterfully like a pro, as he has beaten this game 27 times before. Lona questions, why does he need all these 4? They're all venomous or extremely tricky to handle. People are even reluctant to ever use them. And the only thing she can find useful among them is the scroll. And Knox replies, they are useless if they don't know how to use them. And Lona doesn't understand. And so Nukes turns around and grabs the purple bottle and drinks it down. Lona gets worried and shouts his name in worry as it's apparently poison. And it's not just any poison either. As his heart starts to beat loud and fast, the venom of the 3-headed snake he consumed increased his stamina by 30% temporary, but he would die in 10 minutes. In return, we see him quite in pain as he clenches the table and picks up another time to eat. Seeing his condition, Lona tries to earn a rock, but Knox orders her to not and eats another item. Lona again freaks out, saying that he should not have eaten the golem's nucleus, and the message informs him that his body will soon start to get petrified. But suddenly a hidden effect gets activated as both of the item reacts with one another, and Knox grins while thinking that things are going just as planned. A golem's nucleus is typically used to maximize the user's defensive power by petrifying the skin or to bring an artificially made golem to life. But when it's used in conjunction with venom of 3-headed snake, the negative trait curse of frailty is eliminated. He clenches his fist, noting that the curse of frailty has lifted. Meanwhile, Lona is still freaking out, and it's not the only hidden effect that he planned to activate. As Lona asks Knox if he is all right, she suddenly starts to blush and gets embarrassed a bit as Knox starts to strip off his shirt. But instead of doing what Lona was expecting, Knox reaches for another potion and pours it on himself. It's Fair's water, which neutralizes the petrification and also causes a reaction as Knox feels a weirdly pleasant sensation. And the effect causes a new temporary trait to form, Blessing of Growth, which causes his stamina to have a growth bonus of 100% lasting till it reaches 5 points. And for the final touch, he uses a scroll of Rapid Stamina Growth, which causes his stamina growth rate to double. With this, he broke the curse of frailty and offset the growth penalty of life-limiting illness. On top of that, he also used a growth scroll, and if his calculations are correct, his new stamina growth rate is twice that of average characters now. Suddenly, Lona rushes and hugs Knox, asking him if he is all right, saying that when she saw him take off his shirt, she thought that he finally lost his mind under the venom's influence. But he ignores her and tells her to get a towel for him. She starts sobbing and Knox thinks, how can he yell at her when he is feeling good about breaking the curse? And so he tells her that he is quite all right. And she asks if he is sure that he don't need Ernarock, or perhaps he could use some rest, but he declines, saying that he got things to do. And she asks what exactly, and he replies with a smile, running, of course. And so we again see Knox running outside along with him. Lona is also running, and someone seems to be watching them both from inside a window, wondering what possessed him. It's Tia, who is pouting and questioning about him accepting the duel with his brothers, despite being built like a garden wheat. Her maid corrects her that it's no way to talk to a member of Lean Haber family. She should remember that they are hosting her. And if anyone hears her talking in such manner, but she ignores her suggestion, saying that she should be thinking likewise, as all Knox does is running. It's like he has no intention of training with a sword. And she even heard that some homagers to the Lean Haber family offered to teach him. Yet he turned all of them down without a second thought, which makes her assume that Knox will end up getting beaten witless. There would be no changing that. She is completely engrossed that he has no chance in winning and wonders why is she unable to take her mind off of it. And so she finally snaps and tells her maid that she can't and leaves while apologizing and saying she would be back shortly. Now outside, Knox seems to be resting as someone greets him. And it's Tia who again tells him her name and asks if he remembers. Meanwhile, Knox panics internally, wondering what is she doing here. And so he gets up and says that she doesn't need to remind him and asks her to state her business. She seems to get taken back by his attitude and wonders what is up with it, and assumes that it must be because he is simply too stunned by her beauty, and asks Knox does he really believe that he can beat his brothers, and he simply nods in reply. So she asks that he is doing nothing but running, how much good will that do for his sword skills, which is what Lona wanted to say as well. She also offers him her help, as she would be more than happy to oblige. But Knox immediately shoots her down, saying that he has no interest and asks her to leave. She gets flustered due to that and asks how dare he and if this is how he normally treats people who are trying to offer their help. Lona gets nervous as well, thinking that Knox shouldn't talk to a lady like that. But regardless, Tia angrily takes her leave while pushing Knox and saying, "Have it your way." Though Knox is confused as he doesn't get what happened. Meanwhile, Lona sarcastically comments that it was very tactful of him. He sighs, thinking that it's spiraling out of control. He then uses his perceptive eye onto Leah to see her character window, and he finds it quite wild how talented she is. And looking at the stamina alone, given the average stamina of adult males in this world is 4, she is truly an exceptional case. Although not quite on the level of the 3 Supremes or the 4 Sages, but she can easily claim her place in a league right beneath theirs. And she is also certainly capable of killing a couple of devils in her element of fire. Once awakened, her element of fire will get upgraded to white fire, which will give her the power to burn the corrupt Nox into oblivion. But winning Taya over and becoming friends with her is not an option because he doesn't know how much twist that would cause to the story. And after all, it's nonsense to fraternize with your future vanquisher. Now fast forward to a month later, and we see Tia walking down the manor. She seems to be lost in some thoughts of her. Her memories as everyone around her praises her for mastering skills really fast, calling her a talent befitting the high reputation of the Stellener family. But currently she seems to be doubting herself. And the next thing she remembers, being beaten by her sister. The memory causes frustration as she tightly clenches her sword and questions if she would ever be good enough to become a knight. Knights must be able to lead a frugal existence, void of greed, and from time to time sacrifice themselves for the triumph of justice, and with the mentality as the cornerstone of their training. They must master countless swords and forms. She then sighs, thinking about Nox again, that there is someone like him who thinks that running is enough to defeat his highly trained brothers, and once again states that he stands no chance whatsoever.